We have a special interview for you now. The head of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, Dr. Carlos Lopes, says China's real investment in Africa is low by global standards. He says it's important for African countries to push for more investment and not just trade with China. Lopes was in South Africa delivering a lecture this weekend. He spoke to my colleague Devan Murugan. Sitting down, he asked him why the high growth rates are not ending poverty in Africa.
I think there is a lot to be celebrated. But you are absolutely right. We should not think that this growth is transforming us, because it is not. It's really a growth that is based on internal consumption, a great deal, and natural resources that are not transformed. So basically, this is a growth that is not sustainable first, and second, not generating enough jobs and not really tackling inequality. And I think if we want really to go in that direction, we need what is called economic structural transformation, which is basically about tackling our strategies for economic development in a completely different way.
Now, Thomas Piketty, the famous French economist who was here 2 weeks ago, said that African governments should legally challenge companies who avoid taxes in Africa. Do you think we're moving on this?
There is need for action. We know exactly what to do. On taxation, for instance, just to give you an example, if we just increase 1% the tax collection in the continent, it's more than development aid. 1%, and we have the lowest tax pressure in the world. That means that we can really take ownership of our development process through domestic resource mobilization. And when you say domestic resource mobilization, not just go to the individuals and make them pay more. It's more about making sure that you manage the fiscal apparatus in such a way that you make those who have to pay exactly in compensation for the activities that they are performing. Multinationals are really having a very good time because of lack of competence, one, but more importantly, because of lack of political determination to tackle these issues.
So this continent took a hit as soon as the Chinese economy started to slow down, and more recently when the Chinese stock markets plunged. Is Africa too reliant on China?
Our number one partnership with China is trade. They are number one trading partner of the continent, and they have an overwhelming presence on trade. But when it comes to investment, they are not, in terms of investment stock, even in the number 5 position. They come as number 6. So people don't realize that. And I think it is important also for people to know that all Chinese investment in Africa is less than 4% of Chinese investment in the world. So we are a very residual deposit of Chinese interest, if you want to put it that way. We need more, not less, of China. And we need to make the case that Chinese investment has to be for the long term and has to be transformative.
So, Dr. Lopes, if you had to identify the single most important political impediment to economic growth on the continent, what would that be?
The most important message is about African politics being about diversity and plurality, and our systems not accepting it easily. We have debates about identity and citizenry everywhere in the continent. We cannot even allow citizens from one African country to go freely to another African country without all kinds of complications. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we are more prone to follow the sovereignty state that was constructed in Europe with the Westphalian principles than we are on the proclamations of Pan-Africanism that we are supposed to have espoused.
Carlos Lopes, head of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, he was here delivering the Harold Wolpe lecture at the weekend.